Hello. I hope that you all are doing well right now and your family and all loved ones are doing well also. I first and foremost want to start out with thanking you for taking the time out to hear my thoughts and hear what I've been thinking. And so here's the debut of my channel, What I've Been Thinking with Marcus J. Cage. That's me. Hope you enjoy. I would invite you to comment. Please share your thoughts with me, share your feedback, and I'll do my best to try to reach out and communicate back with you also. I will admit that some of my views might differ from some of those out there who may be listening, but I would hope that we're all able to keep an open mind and be able to take the time to actually do fact checking and research into the different political and social political issues around the world, whether it be foreign affairs or whether we're dealing with healthcare or whether we're dealing with immigration or refugee crisis. My goal in this channel is to start a conversation with average people that we can all understand that we're not alone in some of the thoughts that we have and some of the problems that we see that are going on in our society. And so what my goal is to start that conversation and give some of my thoughts. Being that I've had a very, I'll say, blessed life, I've been able to see many places, have family that love me, friends that have supported me, and I've seen so many who don't have that. And so I want to try to be a voice to some of those out there, and hopefully we can come together with some of the ideas that can help solve some of these problems for some of the people out there. In my opinion, we have to look at the whole entire world, not just the United States or your city or town only as the people that you have to focus on, because we're a united community. And what affects us affects another person next to us and the next person next to them, and so on and so on. And that ripple effect through each of us together comes back around and it affects us in different ways. I don't assume that most people are careless and don't care about others. I just assume that we are all focused with so many things that we have to handle in our own lives that sometimes we can lose focus with some of the others problems and issues that are around us. And I would just ask that we would take that chance to try to look at what's going on with another, especially if we are doing okay ourselves. In the United States, even though we do have many problems with homelessness, poverty, and many issues, we still are blessed to even be in this country because there are opportunities afforded to us that we don't have in many other areas. I do want to focus on some of the issues and problems that I see that go on in this country, but I also want to remind us of the good things that we have and the good people that we have around us. Hopefully you'll stay with me on that journey, and hopefully you'll invite more of your friends, family, co-workers, whatever, to start these same conversations, whether it's here with me on my channel and whoever decides to join us, or whether it's with your family around the big game or a family reunion. Hopefully we can get this nation talking and starting to think about each other and have more consideration and empathy in our hearts so that we can solve some of the real problems that we have. Thank you. I'd like to say one last thing. Happy Veterans Day to all those veterans out there. Thank you for those who came before me. Let's start the show. Thank you for joining me for my Veterans Day special and debut. My name is Marcus Cage, and this is my channel, my show, What I've Been Thinking with Marcus J. Cage. On this Veterans Day, I wanted to start out and first give a big thanks to all the veterans that are out there, all the family, all those dependents. A lot of people, a lot of times, don't think about the family which are involved with the veterans. When I was when I was active duty military in the U.S. Navy, my mother was very integral in making things a lot easier for me to adjust to military life away from my family. And while she was making it easier for me to be able to adjust to being away from family, she also had to deal with her own adjustments. So I like to do, just a big thank you to all those military mothers who are always out there worrying, the husbands, the wives, the children, those cousins, uncles, aunts, aunts, and grandparents. All of those people, I like to say a big thank you also. Because one thing a lot of people don't realize is out of our roughly 350 million people in the United States, only about 1% of that are active duty or veterans, or family of active duty and veterans. And so I think that it's missed a lot of times, the sacrifices that go on with active duty military, veterans, and their family. So another big thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of those veterans out there and all of their family. We could be boring and talk about a whole lot of history and bore you, but on my first debut show, I don't want to weigh you down with too many stats and figures and historical references. I want to focus on just a handful of issues so that we can get this conversation started for the next phase of ideas that I have coming up for future shows. I want to dig deeper into a lot of our foreign policy, and so that will dovetail off of this Veterans Day show. A couple of the issues which I wanted to talk about is some of the conflicts that we're involved in all over the world right now. When I say that the 1% of the population are active duty veterans and family, I feel like that leaves a huge blind spot for a lot of fellow Americans to understand and have gravity of some of the things that are going on that don't happen in the continental United States. Currently, right now, we're still involved in Iraq. We're still involved in Afghanistan. We are involved in Pakistan, Somalia, Libya, and Uganda right now. We also have, we're also involved in some stuff out in the Indian Ocean, and we're involved with Pakistan and Kashmir and a whole load of other issues, including a hot issue which is going on currently right now with the former president of Bolivia, Evo Morales. There's just recently been a forced resignation from the military of that country, backed wholeheartedly by our own government, sadly. And I feel while we're focused on a lot of these different things and doing token thank you to veterans, I would like for us to actually start having the real conversations and understanding what we're actually doing when we are serving abroad in these countries. I don't fault any active duty soldier, sailor, or any of my shipmates for anything that they've been ordered to have to do or misconceptions that they've had while they're in the military. Because what a lot of people don't understand about the military is it is very compartmentalized. If I have a job working in the health field as a corpsman or as a surgeon, I'm not going to know what somebody in the intel world is going to know. And so therefore, it makes it harder for an active duty soldier to be able to understand all the dynamics that are going on between our government, the political dynamics between our nation, that nation, the surrounding countries, and it also, when you're young, let's just be honest, you're not paying attention, care anyway. You're just happy that you have a career, you're able to have a little bit of fun, and you have money that's going to your college fund. That's what majority of active duty soldiers, troops, and sailors are thinking about, to be honest with you. So when that's the factors that we have going on, nobody's paying attention to how many contracts are going to the major corporations, whether they be oil companies or whether they be pharmaceutical companies or whether they be companies that might seem a little benign to us, like the Nestle Corporation. There are a lot of things that are going on with our corporations that are being aided by our military that we need to pay attention to, and our military are the tools which we're using a lot of time to back up some of these corporate interests that we have in America. So that's some of the issues that I would want for us to delve deeper into as we get further along in some of our shows and some of our discussions. I will make an effort to bring on experts to talk about some of the subjects that we're going to dive into. I also want to have your input and your feedback. If you are interested in different subjects that we're talking about, or you have a subject that you feel that I should be abreast of and that I should be discussing here on the channel, please let me know, and we can get together and I could bring you on board the channel to be able to speak to the issues that you feel need to be spoken about. One more issue that I wanted to get into before I get away from here today. One thing that's not talked about very much with the military, and specifically veterans who are returning, the transition back to civilian life is not always an easy transition for most veterans, and that's something that I feel should be a nonpartisan issue for both parties to try to work on. Most veterans that I know of in active duty are versed in tons of different training, and each individual active duty troop is giving thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars of training invested. And with all that training, what normally happens when a lot of these soldiers or sailors get out of the military is they have trouble transitioning because a lot of the training that they have doesn't match up to what is required or asked for or worded properly in a lot of the civilian career force. And so that runs into a lot of issues, especially when you have a young man or woman who's been trained in a specific skill and only been explained a certain way, and then left to get out of the military to their own devices and then figure out a whole new world which they're not accustomed to. For instance, when you're active duty in the military, you have TRICARE. TRICARE covers everything. It's the greatest thing you can have. It's the gold standard. When you get out of the military and you no longer have TRICARE, now you have to understand what it's like in the civilian markets to try to negotiate different healthcare packages, dental packages, vision, whether it's hearing, therapy, the works. And those are things that you're not accustomed to doing in the military, along with the way your holiday time and your sick time and all those things are allocated. The way your advancement and promotions are done are completely different. And so I would just like for some of those who are supervisors out there who listen to this, or some of those who might be managers or CEOs, that maybe we could try to find more solutions to join up and merge the training that that we've learned, and that we've mastered in the military, that can be an addition and a great asset to any future company that's out there. If we could do that, I feel that we could actually accomplish two goals. The first goal is we can help veterans be able to readjust and reintegrate into society. And that will help with a lot of problems, which I know of other veterans I've talked to who have problems with depression, alcoholism, drug addiction, a variety of other issues. And especially you combine in having a family, wife, kids, husband, multiple children or whatever, or you may have an illness yourself, or your spouse has an illness, or one of your dependents. When you're starting to factor in all these things getting out of the military, it gets a little bit harder to deal with such an onslaught of such a different culture than you're used to in the military, because you're taught mainly to focus on mastering your career or your profession, your rating, your health care, a lot of your housing, a lot of those things you're given in supplements to be able to take care of those things, and your family be able to take care of the needs that they need to take care of, without you having to haggle with insurance companies and worry about all of these things, which a lot of our civilian counterparts have to deal with on a regular basis. And when you jump into the civilian workforce, and you've done that from 18, 19 years old, you may have had a parent who you were able to stay with, or maybe you were able to room with a couple of friends. When you were able to do that, you were able to have some trial and error a lot of times, and start to learn about different jobs. And as you were able to move up, those different skills that you gained might not have seemed like important or major skills, but those are skills which a lot of active duty military members don't have. And when they get out, the harsh learning curve, some it's a sink or swim reality. Some will have family and others that'll be able to help assist them. But what I want to ask for is that those of you who are not familiar with some of these issues that we have as veterans, that you would take the time to maybe help a veteran redo their resume, reword it. Maybe there's different ways that they need to word things in a conversation, in an interview. And so if you have those kind of communication skills, or if you have those kind of, let's say, office and technical skills, please, that's a way where you can give a true thanks to a lot of veterans out there. Because saying thank you, we do appreciate it, but what a lot of veterans would actually need is just a helping hand. And so I would ask for you all to reach out and try to do that. I see it got going a little bit without really laying a little bit about who I am, and so I guess I'll slow down for a minute, and I'll do that now. To those of you who are not familiar with my channel, my name is Marcus Cage. I grew up in Kansas City, spent a lot of time traveling throughout my life, and spent a good portion of my time, when not in Kansas City, in Florida, and while I was in the military, I had the pleasure of uh, being stationed in Italy for a few years. I spent a lot of time in Spain and Puerto Rico, in Greece, Turkey, a couple of different other parts of the country. Overall, I've been to about 13 different countries. I've been to about, I want to say, 38 different states. Um, so far, I've lived in roughly 4 or 5 different states or cities. And so that background of moving around and being able to take in and view other people's cultures up close and personal, I feel gave me a different point of view on certain things. When I was in high school, we had uh, we had a good number of refugee students who came over from Bosnia and Kosovo. I made friends with a lot of those kids there, and their stories still impact me to this day. Um, that that helped with that helped shape a lot of my point of views towards being so pro-military. Besides the fact of coming from a very heavily military family with many uncles and an aunt also Air Force, and I have a bunch of Army and a few other branches sprinkled around through my family. So I've come from a very patriotic background. Uh, I also, as a young kid, grew up around my grandparents, who were kids of the Depression era. Uh, they grew up with a certain mindset that was implemented on me, also, uh, and with that, paying attention to politics, paying attention to current events, what's going on in the world, was definitely embedded on me from my grandparents. Um, I have a family who's very educated in various different, I'll say, well, in different sciences, we'll say, and having that kind of intelligence to be around, it leaves for fruitful conversation and a hunger for more knowledge. And by being around those types of family members who are many much smarter than I am, they've given me a certain curiosity of knowledge and wanting to understand other people and other cultures and genuinely wanting to help. Um, so that sparked a lot of my interest in wanting to make a difference overall. Uh, when I joined the military, one of my detachments that I went on was in Greece. That detachment before, we had a big problem there with one of our shipmates who went before was actually attacked by an ethnic Albanian there who had some deep issues with the United States and our presence in some of the wars and some of the countries that we were dealing with in different conflicts. Um, while I was there, I was kind of on my guard to worry about that. One of the first things that I saw when we were getting there, uh, and I apologize to my mom and family members right now for having to recite a little bit of bad language, but it's had spray painted up on the walls. Fuck you, Americans. I hope you all die of cancer. Seeing that at 19 years old, going into a foreign country, lets you know you need to keep your head on a swivel and watch out. So, trying to relax and trying to be careful at the same time, I went out just like the rest of the guys and, had a bite to eat and a little bit of drinking. And out that night, we ran into a couple of protesters, who they were peaceful protesters, by the way, but they were ethnic Albanians, a couple from Bosnia and Kosovo. And that night we sat down with them and we had deep, deep conversation. And we were able to start to understand, start to see some of the things from their perspective and understand what it would be like being in a region where you have another nation which decides to just come in and do whatever they want, and other countries around the world either decide to help or turn a blind eye, and you have to basically wait till the right leader comes along from some foreign country to decide, okay, that's enough of what they have going on there, I'm going to come in and stop that. And so that's what they explained to me, that though the United States was not perfect and they were doing other things around the world that were unacceptable, that they still were unhappy with, they were happy with our intervention into that country to certain extents. And that's why I want us to start having more of a discussion on foreign policy. Just that little bit of a discussion that I had there with those 3 or 4 gentlemen, roughly probably getting close to 20 years ago. It reshaped the narrative in the way I look at politics. I started to understand that, yes, it's important to have nice roads and safe streets, and our schools are doing well, and have a nice, fair tax system, and that our society run well, and that we're able to provide for our families and to be able to enjoy a happy, content life. But we also have to remember that if we're not focusing on what's happening in the other countries around the world, those problems will come to our front doorstep, and they already are. Through a lot of our policies that we've done in the military, through intervention in South America, has led to a lot of refugees and immigration into our country because of the mass violence and the complete failed state of a lot of those countries down there. So if we can start having this conversation and we can start talking more about what's going on with foreign policy, and as Americans start making it our duty and responsibility to hold our politicians accountable for what they decide to do with the military and what they decide to do with funds, that's when we'll actually start to get somewhere as a nation. So that's what I want to see us push for. That's what I'm asking you guys all to do. On that note, I will finish with my last closing thought. There are many issues that have happened in this country, and a lot of them that are negative have happened throughout my lifetime. Now, the popular meme that's going around right now that infuriates a lot of the older generation is the OK Boomer. The OK Boomer meme. Figure that's a good fun note to leave on, even though it won't be entirely fun. I ask for my baby boomers out there to bear with me for a moment, but this is a conversation that I want to have in the most respectful way that I can have. A lot of the frustrations that the younger generation X and millennials have are caused by cracks in the system that were either championed, ignored, or taken advantage of by previous generations. The reason why millennials have moved to be more political. And the reason why you need to pay more attention and listen to what they're talking about is because now in this information age, we have information at our fingertips. All we have to do is decide that now we are going to be on top of that information. I give most baby boomers a pass that you couldn't have known what certain politicians would have done or how certain things were going to go. But now is the time that we need to start paying attention. And I'm speaking to you, baby boomers. The Generation X, they're on board and they're starting to pay attention. And the millennials are feeling the pinch of a lot of what's going on. So that's where the OK Boomer is going on. When they hear these neoliberal, wealthy elites spit about the ideas that us lower income and mostly minorities and women deal with, it's frustrating. And so their jokingly retort is OK Boomer. If that's not you as a boomer, please don't take it to heart. We do understand that some of you guys got railroaded in the same policies which are affecting us negatively today. We get that. But understand that there is a large contingent of your generation that has no empathy and nothing but disdain for this younger generation, which has it much harder than you guys have it. We have to be honest about that. We do have it harder. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed my first debut show. I will be working on more things, and hopefully I can keep improving, and hopefully you guys will stay with me. Have a good one. Thank you.